Okay, welcome back to another edition of Real BatDude Reacts. This is part two, my part two of reaction videos to Amber Heard's day 15 testimony in this trial. And she had already testified for about a half an hour in our previous video. This is part two, so we're going to continue on with our reaction to her testimony. So let's get into it.
Character, when where I was empowered, like I read the script and I thought this character was empowered sexually. And by the time I got Johnny's feedback on it, I had been convinced that actually I was just being used.
So they're engaged now.
I was just.
So they're engaged, and she's accepted, and now she's coming to terms with having difficulties getting roles, going to social events, because Johnny, in her eyes, is so controlling over her life. That's where she's at.
Being used, it was clear that that was all I had to offer, and I was too foolish to see it. And I had
Amber, I'm just going to stop you right there because I'd like you to take a look at Defendant's Exhibit 188A. Is that in front of you? Do you recognize this portion of the text chain?
See how the attorney is covering the screen?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and this is on September 9, 2013?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and are these statements Mr. Depp made to you during that evening that you just described to the jury?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'm going to move the admission of Defendant's 188A.
Any objection?
No objection.
All right, 188A in evidence as redacted.
Okay.
Do I have that redaction, or is that something you need to give me?
I think we're going to need to give it to you a hard
Okay.
copy.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. And if I
Love her conservative schoolgirl
can draw
outfit,
your
but
attention to it,
whatever.
he first says, I don't want to make anything an issue, baby, but I literally have been on the ground just 14 fucking hours from leaving your side. Do you see that?
Yes.
And then he says, you know what I want, who I am, and where I want to go with us. You know very well what type of fucking man I am, and yet you lay a gauntlet before me that you know is the very species of danger that will always attract me into a very tempting test. What's behind that door? Almost impossible to even not take you on. You want me to roll the dice? This sounds more like an aggravated ultimatum than soft words that could help us make both feel better. Don't test me, please. Did he tell you that?
Yes, he did.
And what did you understand that to mean?
I'm wondering why he would say that. I think this is after an engagement. They're not married yet. I don't want to make anything an issue, baby, but I literally have been on the ground for 14 hours from leaving your side. Text messages and a way that couples or people communicate with each other, it's hard for outsiders to understand a tone of voice. With text messaging, all caps for shouting or not, these kind of things are meant to look bad for Johnny. She's doing it and putting it on purpose, but you really can never tell the true tone of voice in it. And what did she say before he landed? What text messages did she delete before this? What arguments or discussions they have before this to get him riled up? I mean, why would a man get so riled up in general unless there's something causing it? And you're not seeing the pretext. You're not seeing the conversations before this text. She's just asking you to see this text and say, oh my God, look at the language. Look how forceful he is. Look, whatever. What about what you said that's not being recorded or that's not being made a there's not a copy of your written comments, Amber.
It was clear. It was a threat that if I wanted to be.
Objection, speculation.
I think she
Yeah.
can say what she understood it to mean.
I'll sustain the objection.
Okay.
In her hyper-emotional ways, what she understood to be. She's extremely oversensitized, over-dramatic person. So what I mean it to mean is I'm oversensitive, but yet I don't know it because I'm a narcissist.
Let's move on then to the filming of Mordecai with Mr. Bettany in October, November 2013. Where did that take place?
In London.
Okay. And what, if any, involvement did you have? Were you there for any part of that filming?
For part of it, I happened to be in London already for the film I was just telling you about. And Johnny came to London shortly after to film his own movies. He did the smaller, I think it was a smaller role in Into the Woods, and then he was filming Mordecai after that. So after I finished my movie, I moved in with him into his house in London, a rented house in London.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And describe your experiences during that time period with Mr. Depp.
It was really
Horrible.
touch and go. He was
I got
filming
engaged and it was horrible.
me, and there were days when he wouldn't come home, or they couldn't get him up out of on set. He'd be asleep in his trailer, sleeping whatever he'd done the night before off. I remember he missed a few days of work that way. It struck me because in my experience in our job,
In my limited experience at that time, as an actress of only a few years,
millions of dollars every single day they're filming, and I had not experienced.
This is the videos pausing.
Someone who could effectively just
This was the
control the set like that. You know, I mean, to that.
the pausing of the video
And
from
one
the
day he
court's
didn't,
feed on this.
Come home.
That's why it looks
and
paused. It's not
I was worried
paused.
sick. I found out that he was in a hotel room with Paul Bettany.
Objection, hearsay.
Okay. Move forward, because
When he came home, they had to carry him home.
Objection, hearsay.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
I watched it.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, please continue.
I watched. It actually, I was shocked that he could do it. One of the security guards carried.
And the
Johnny, like a
Scottish
baby, into the house. And I
security
looked at
guard
that,
testified
I mean, his boots were hanging over the
that
security
he
guard's
wasn't
arm,
like
who
that.
Had to negotiate getting through the doorway, carrying Johnny like this. And I watched this. His assistants and the other security guards.
This
shaking
video
their head
will
and just
will
shaking their head, acknowledging this is
adjust.
how bad it is.
It's just a
And
frozen screen from the
I
court
remember
feed.
thinking, this has got to be it. Like, this has got to change. This is it. And he was.
I mean, you're so fed
understandably
up
very,
already
very
and you're
sick
just engaged?
for at least 2 days, is my recollection.
You're with an international
And in that
movie
2 days,
star
I had a lot of
living
conversations
in
with this
London.
team. I won't say what they were.
If you were on your
but
own,
I
I guarantee the little
felt-
apartment that your little independent movie or low budget major motion picture, whatever you were doing in London, would have put you up in some tiny little shack. But I guarantee you were living pretty nicely in the apartment that Johnny Depp had in London. Yeah, it's so horrible.
At that juncture, very encouraged that everybody and myself were on the same page. And I felt encouraged that we were in a new chapter, that Johnny had finally hit rock bottom, and finally he felt like
You don't know what he felt.
changing for good. And I felt buoyed, supported by these conversations I was having with people that he was close to, that he trusted.
November 2013, did you have any contact with Lily Rose that led to any discussions with Mr. Depp?
Objection leading.
his daughter,
What,
Lily
if any,
Rose.
communications did you have with Lily Rose in November 2013?
Thanksgiving
Objection calls
time.
as hearsay leading.
I'm asking what her connection was. I didn't ask what she
I'm
said.
going to sustain the objection. If you want.
Thank
Okay,
you.
November 2013, what, if any, interaction did you have with Lily Rose without saying anything she said?
Objection hearsay.
It's interaction, Your Honor. I'm not asking for what she said.
If you can lay a foundation out.
It's still
Did there come a time in November 2013 that you saw Lily Rose?
interaction
Yes,
implies
they came to stay
communication.
with us for some time in the winter. Yeah, around November, I believe, 2013.
When you said they, who are you referring to?
Johnny's kids, Jack and Lily Rose.
All right. And was there a particular incident that led to a disagreement with Mr. Depp?
Objection leading.
Sustain.
What, if any, interaction did you have with Lily Rose that led to an argument with Mr. Depp?
Objection leading.
That, what, if any?
Look at his attorney.
Approach from this.
Lily Rose is not a witness to this case. I don't think she's been deposed. She may have been. I don't think so, because I think she's still a young teen at this point
Did you
right
have an
now.
argument with Mr. Depp relating to Lily Rose in November 2013?
Yes.
Can you please describe that?
Well,
So her
I-
testimony
I didn't,
of what Lily
I
Rose
was- I-
said is
I was-
hearsay.
You know, these kids were, I found them to be these beautiful,
Oh God.
wildly intelligent little weirdos in the best way. You know, they were,
Little weirdos.
I was.
Did he, he's
falling in love
leaning
with
over
them.
to his attorney and said, "She just called my
And-
kids weirdo." He's
You know,
shaking his
they-
head.
they-
Weirdos, really?
Were in my life at that time, a short amount of time, but I loved it, and I started to feel very protective, and you know.
But you travel all the
Johnny's
time, and
sobriety
you
meant
said
that he
it.
was there, and then he wasn't. And the nature of our lives with the travel and work meant he was there, and then he wasn't. And Lily Rose, at some point, had a crush on a you know.
Hearsay?
Objection hearsay. And lack of foundation.
What does it matter whether Lily Rose liked the boy?
This argument happened because Johnny was. I didn't agree that this gentleman, it was a famous musician.
In your 20-something-year-old experience and zero experience as a parent, raising a child for at least 10 years like he did up until that point, they were probably, preteens, early teens. I would say they're preteens. You, again, don't agree with his parenting skills. His partner has raised their children with him, and probably she's had, more custody of the children than he has, but I'm sure it's shared at some point. Trusts Johnny enough to send her children to Johnny in London, but yet she has all this parenting knowledge of the world now, not ever being a parent ever, and doesn't agree with his decision. Do parents make mistakes? Sure they do. Do you think that these are his love of his life is his children? He loves his children. He spoils his children. And if he makes mistakes as a parent with regard to, and at the time they were probably minors, at the time both, it would be in his discretion what to do with the children while he's in custody of the children during his visitation time. And all of a sudden she wants to butt in. Her controlling, narcissistic, hyper-emotional, hyper-dramatic behavior wants to butt in and parent, co-parent, with his children on whatever Lily Rose wants to do, I would imagine that would kind of make most parents angry. So we'll see.
And over the age of 18, spent the night at the house, and I felt protective over Lily Rose and concerned.
Yeah.
And
Meanwhile, take a look at the history of how Will Smith and Jada Smith raised their kids. Use that as the comparison.
naturally, they were not my children. It's not my place.
Then
I
don't.
understand that.
Uh-huh.
I know it's a sensitive subject,
Uh-huh.
so I understand why Johnny got so upset with me.
Uh-huh.
But that and the introduction of the weed with his daughter, she was so young, I just felt protective. Again, it's not my
Introduction
place.
of the weed. Is she implying he gave her weed or that he was smoking weed in front of the kids? You know, all of a sudden you have to make a judgment on what's right for the children. When for over the past 10 years or so, it's been him and his ex-partner that have been dealing with these things. Now all of a sudden, you're the gatekeeper? You're the arbiter of how Johnny should parent his children? How conceited are you?
I understand that, and I made him really angry by weighing in on that.
Okay. Did there come a time that there was a family engagement gathering?
Well, we celebrated Thanksgiving out in London. The kids were there. There was a stint of sobriety following how sick he got on set with Paul Bettany after one of his drug binges, and he kind of just came alive again. You know, he even played a prank on me about having relapsed when he hadn't relapsed. You know, I started to kind of feel that with the kids being around. I did think that maybe this was it. We were on a good path, meaning to sobriety, that this was it, and our life was peaceful for a minute, you know.
Meanwhile, there's testimony that you
back to
drink
being
like a fish.
wonderful.
She has
There were
2
these
bottles of
moments
wine.
just
When they
felt
were at
so
the island,
Objection, Your Honor, non-responsive.
she drinks $500 bottles of wine.
Sustain the objection.
Okay. Take us to the
Spoiled
engagement.
princess.
Was this engagement
She
party?
drinks like
Then,
a
yes,
fish.
come Christmas of 2013, Johnny had rented this beautiful mansion in Malibu on the beach. It was gorgeous. And he brought my family out, and his family was out, obviously, in LA. And we stayed in this rented mansion, and we're all together for the holidays. And one evening, we were going to his mother's house. His mother, who you've heard about, was older and sick, but at home being cared for. And
Because he cares for his
when
family
we were
too,
going to have
even
dinner,
though his mother was
Christmas
very
dinner
abusive to
there
him in his
with
early
her
childhood.
around the time of her
He
birthday
still
as well.
takes
And
care of his
my
family
best friend
too.
said,
His
"You
mom.
Objection, hearsay.
Sorry.
Wasn't offered to prove the truth of the matter, but go ahead. Go past that. What did you do?
We went to Betty Sue's house, his mother's house, and Johnny proposed in front of our families in this big, surprise. He surprised me. Got down on one knee and
Very kind, very loving.
I cried and hugged my mother and hugged his mother. And he
But yet
gave
you were
me this
so you were so
enormous diamond ring, and
that would make any woman fall over. Probably an average middle class woman would fall over. It just pass out over the enormity of the ring. And you had so much trepidation, so much hesitation. And yet he went and did all this for a family engagement. So in front of getting the blessing of the families, your family, his family, mom, what a sister, what have you, and that's not kind enough. I mean, wow.
A nice time.
I'm going to take you into January, February 2014.
All these facial expressions. I don't know.
You employed a woman named Kate James, is that correct?
Objection leading.
What, if any, relationship did you have with Kate James?
Objection.
She was my assistant at the time. I hired her sometime in 2012 and had as minimal contact with her as I possibly could. So.
And why is that?
Let's blame Johnny.
She was.
Let's blame Johnny.
Difficult, troubled, and inconsistent. She drank on the job and stuff like that.
More
her
judgment.
behavior was
Objection relevance.
Yeah.
She's already testified. Kate James has testified, and I think the bias, we can.
All right, I'll allow that. Go ahead.
Thank you. Okay. Please describe for the jury what job responsibilities Kate had and how you communicated with her and kind of how.
Was her agent,
worked.
right? Did you say?
Objection compound.
Overruled.
Thank you.
we had minimal person-to-person interaction because I was hardly ever in LA. If I was there for a few days at a time, and Johnny and I kind of lived in this insular bubble anyway when we were together. But we would send emails, texts, and a lot of voice memos, voice notes.
Yeah,
and,
you love that cell phone. You love your
you know,
cell phone. You
I found
love
I
your
said,
cell phone.
Kate, you left the car running with your doors open and your kids in the car on the street. You need to
Objection
move it.
hearsay.
She's not testifying. She's testifying about context.
Sustained objection. Next question.
All right. I'm going to ask you to take a look at Defendant's Exhibit 209.
Your Honor, I'm going to object on hearsay grounds. It's still hearsay.
Foundation of what?
May we
Ms. Heard,
approach?
did you, may I lay the foundation first? Ms. Heard, did you communicate with Kate James by email in the ordinary course of your business?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And I'm going to ask you to take a look at Defendant's 209. Is this a communication that was between you and Kate James that was in the ordinary course of business with her as an employee?
Yes, it is.
So, Your Honor, I'm going to move the admission of Defendant's Exhibit 209. Business records exception.
Still hearsay, Your Honor.
Business record exception gets the business record, but it's hearsay. If there's hearsay involved inside the business record, there's still objection to hearsay.
Your Honor, the business records exception,
Again, her attorneys get really confused over stuff.
I don't agree. I think that's
She
the point.
doesn't know. It doesn't.
Approach.
We're going to watch for about 8 minutes more. As you can see, the female attorney for Johnny is covering up his screen. She does that a lot. It's you may be an audience member in the back, but it doesn't mean they have the right to see what's on the screen. The jurors get screens, even though you can't see the jurors. When things get published to them, they can see it and view, if there is certain visual items, as you've seen before in some of Johnny's witnesses. But they're. Oh yeah, she's bringing in her cohort. And I think she's handing her probably standing rules, or they're going over the case, the statute regarding business communications, and I think that's why she referenced to her friend or her coworker to bring up this book. And I think they're arguing statute right now, or hearsay exemptions, hearsay exceptions to the rule. So whatever they discussed.
What communications did you have with Kate James about your issues with Mr. Depp?
Objection hearsay.
Ms. James has testified.
I'll sustain the objection.
Then you talk to and bring up statements made in testimony.
I'm going to jump
And
to
you
February,
ask
March
about
2016.
those.
What, if any, communications did you have with Mr. Depp about a prenup?
Well, after the engagement, but before the engagement party, I started to.
Let's talk about this prenup.
I started to feel like it would make. I know that he earned significantly more than me, successful actor. I wanted to eliminate any doubt in his mind and in other people's minds, so I brought it up to him.
No, you didn't.
And brought it up to my therapist.
Objection hearsay.
She's just saying that she brought it up to her therapist. She's not saying what she said. But please focus on Mr. Depp, okay?
Johnny testified.
Johnny said he would tear it up. He said, if you ever brought one up to me, or if I ever saw one, got my hands on it, I'd tear it up.
Okay.
Only way out of this is death. Only way out of this is death.
He's shaking his head. No, he wanted a prenup.
I thought it's.
I mean, come, it's Hollywood.
I didn't care either way, but I did feel that it would eliminate suspicion.
He wanted a prenup, not you.
Doubt, and it would make things
because you
easier.
wanted.
And I told him over and over again, are you sure? Are you sure? Maybe we should do this. And one time he said to me, he's like, kid, are you already thinking of how you're getting out of this? Are you already planning to get out of this, kid? You already planning on leaving? That was
multi-millionaire actor who's built up his reputation and money and standing in the Hollywood community. All of a sudden, he didn't marry his ex-partner, wants to marry you, and all of a sudden is willing to throw away his whole fortune, or shall I say half of his whole fortune, over he doesn't want a prenup. I guarantee everyone in his circle, his camp, I can't guarantee. I would think, Johnny, you need to get a prenup, dude. You need to get a prenup, dude.
Around the same time as the moving in together conversation.
She's so kind and considerate. She offered it to him.
He accused me of having 1 foot out. And they kind of were happening around the same time. I still had my apartment, and
maybe you were acting like you had 1 foot out.
He was,
I don't know,
asking me to redecorate Sweetser, his main house, and kind of move into the ECB building downtown where my best friend was living. At this.
Make yourself comfortable, honey. Here's a indisposable amount of cash, or limitless amount of cash. Make yourself at home. Paint the walls. Put in furniture to make yourself at home. I'm so intimidated. I'm so threatened. I have so much apprehension. What?
This time, while the decorations and the remodeling had been done on Sweetser. And so these conversations were kind of happening about how to build our future together and how we were going to move forward together. And I would have forgotten about the extent that we had those conversations early on in the engagement if it hadn't have been for my therapist's notes.
I'm sorry, if it hadn't been for your what?
If
What
it hadn't
about
been
the
for my
prenup?
therapist's notes,
What
taken at
are
the
you
time when I
talking
was
about?
to her about this and my conversations with
Objection,
John.
hearsay.
She's not answering any
We'll
question.
sustain the
We'll move
objection.
on. Okay.
She
Let's
asked her, what about a prenup did you discuss, I think, with her attorney, or with her agent over emails or something like that about a prenup, and she barely answered the question. I think I brought it
To March 2014, did there come a time there was an engagement party?
Yes, so it was March 2014.
So not only did he do a private engagement, so he asked her privately, then did it in front of parents. Now there's another engagement, like a third engagement party.
Please describe for the jury.
We had an engagement party, and we decided that when we did get married, we'd have a small wedding.
We
something
decided.
intimate.
Uh-huh.
But our lives were kind of big. His life was extremely big.
Uh-huh. Thank you.
And we needed to incorporate. We wanted to have a bigger engagement party than a wedding, and kind of get our guests in, our family, our friends, and have a big event of it, as opposed to making the wedding something that was big. And so we kind of put it on the engagement party and had a bunch of people, a lot of friends, business acquaintances.
We're going to pause right here.
A lot of family. I had all of my family friends.
We're going
and
to pause
my childhood
right
friends
here.
come out for it, and I even invited my therapist. It was, a big.
Okay. So I apologize. We're listening to it. We're going to go to part 3 here soon, and we'll hear the story of her engagement and what went wrong with that. But I hope you're enjoying the commentary. Yeah, of course, you can tell from this second video, from the first and this one, that we're pro Johnny. Is he a perfect person? No. Has he done drugs and alcohol and stuff? I'm sure everyone knows he has. Is he a sweet little innocent baby? No. All I'm doing is trying to point out some of her over dramatic and maybe inconsistent and untruthful testimony that she did on day 15, which was on Thursday, May 5th. So let's go on to part 3. Hope you like these videos. If you like the reactions, please hit the thumbs up, like, and subscribe. Love to see you. Let's look for part 3. Guys, everyone, thank you so much. Love you.